Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com. Get an in-depth preview of the Chicago Bears' next opponent and John Buffone's passionate rants on Buffone 55 Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Central. Hello, everyone. It's Aldo Gandia along with Greg Gabriel. Another episode of Greg Gabriel Talks Football. And Greg, I tweeted out something about hoping that you would make me feel better about the loss. And what was it that you said to me prior to the show?
And I'm going to be your goddamn therapist. I'm going to send you a bill.
You know what? Your presence is making me feel better because I know that you're going to look at this game through eyes that I don't possess. So you're going to be able to break certain things down and maybe offer some hope, or maybe the realism is just something I've got to face. So what were your overall thoughts about that disappointing loss to the Green Bay Packers Sunday?
Well, yeah, it's disappointing you lost a game. You never want to lose the game. The fact is, right now, today, Green Bay's a better football team than the Chicago Bears. And they've got one of the premier quarterbacks, top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in all of football. It's tough to beat those guys. You know, you got to have everything right. Now, saying that, and off the air before we came on, I said I thought there was a turning point in that game that may have spelled the difference between victory and a loss, and that was the non-penalty when Justin Fields threw the interception on the no call for the offsides, clearly offsides. I mean, the guy was offsides. He was offsides as much as Quinn was offsides in that first drive. You know, and maybe even more so. But they've got the ball in Green Bay territory. I don't recall what the down and distance was, but I think it was first down. Chances are they at least get 3 points out of that drive, and maybe even 7.
Oh, this is the wrong play. I apologize. Go ahead.
That's all right. So, you know, but it turns into a turnover, which was really almost like I don't want to blame Justin Fields on that throw. He thought he had he was heaving it. And he thought he had a free play. Everybody in the stadium thought they had a free play. The only guy who didn't think they had a free play was the line judge who didn't throw the damn flag. You know, but I think had the Bears gone up 10-0 or 14-0, they win that game. And I honestly believe that.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think I found the play here. I'll play it, and then you can kind of analyze it for us. Let's go here and share the screen with this and there. And here we go. It's coming right up here. There it is.
Yeah. He stepped into the neutral zone. It's encroachment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Coach Nagy said today that because Justin saw the offsides and expected the flag or the neutral zone infraction, he went into the scramble drill, but A-Rob didn't, and so that was part of the problem.
Right, and there was one other one with the other interception. There was a problem where the receiver was going and where he was throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But neither one of those were. I'm throwing out the first one. I'm not even counting that as an interception. That was on the officials, and the Bears will get a letter from the league tomorrow, and it'll say, there's a bad call there. Big deal. I mean, doesn't change the outcome of the game. It just says, see, we told you so, and that's about it. And the other one, was a heave throw. Is what it is. It wasn't a dumb interception.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be more upset about a dumb interception. I mean, it's going on his record as 2 interceptions in a game, like he made some dumb throws, and that wasn't the case. In fact, he had some damn good throws. Mm-hmm. And if you go back to Nagy's presser earlier today, he talked about some of the throws Justin made. But still, he's far from being perfect. He's far from being the consistent NFL level quarterback that you want. He holds on to the ball too long in some cases. That causes some sacks. Nagy tried to absolve him one time saying, well, yeah, but that holding on to the ball allowed to a 20-yard gain on a scramble later on. And, he just got tripped up on that one play. But he did. I mean, I think he's got to learn. The top quarterbacks in football get the ball out of their hand real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's across the board. And he will learn to do that as he gains more experience. Now, you look at some of the comments by some of the fans and, you got to fire the coaching staff, fire Nagy, he sucks, all this. Well, hey, y'all wanted a rookie quarterback to gain experience, to go through this. Now go through it, because this is what's going to happen.
There are going to be growing pains.
There's growing pains. There's going to be ups and downs. And you know what? He's going to play a game down the road this year where he's going to be lights out, and then it could be the week after where he's going to stink. Mm-hmm. And that's just part of the growing pains of having a rookie quarterback.
Yep, exactly. And part of the good stuff regarding Justin Fields, Matt Nagy talked about that. In particular, 3 plays in that first series that led to a touchdown that started with a second.
5, 6, and 7, if I recall.
Right, exactly. That's how he referred to them, 5, 6, and 7 of that drive. And listen to Matt Nagy and watch the visual of what he's referring to.
Those 3 plays right there for Justin were special. Okay, so the very first play, he took a 3-step drop, nice little hitch, and ran a corner route through Mooney right on time. I mean, that was a professional throw, professional play. Great play by the line, everybody. The very next play, he comes back and they run a cover 2, and he hits A-Rob in the side pocket there down the sideline. Great throw, great catch, great execution. Follows it back up with a good chip protection shot play where the safety's playing kind of tight, cutting a deep cross, and he goes with the post alert, which is what we teach him. And all of that happened on time and in rhythm. When you can play quarterback and play on time and in rhythm, you see good things happen. And that was awesome. Those 3 plays right there. We got a PI in the end zone. We get the ball at the 1. We score a touchdown.
We've got 4,000 Clovers saying, but Nagy wasn't able to groom Trubisky either. And so there seems to be some impatience there that let's see, is this it? Yeah, except Nagy wasn't able to groom Trubisky either, Greg. So what do you say to fans who have that opinion?
It's 2 different players. And I'll say this, and I'll go back, and I generally watch the NFL Network coverage of the draft because I don't like ESPN, but I recorded the ESPN coverage because Louis Riddick's a friend of mine, and I wanted to hear what he had to say. And I worked in Philly with Lewis, and Matt Nagi was on the staff. He was a quality control coach on the offensive on the offensive staff. And, he mentioned he knows Matt a lot better than I do. I know Matt. He knows him real well. They're good friends. He was, I was only with him the one season, and that was Andy's because of the tragedy. Andy lost his son in training camp that year, and it was just a thrown out year. And unfortunately, their last year in Philly, and then he went on to Kansas City. But he said that now have some history in this. Lewis knew exactly what Nagy felt about the quarterbacks in the Trubisky draft and how he had them ranked. And they had, I think he said that he had Watson number one. I know the Chiefs had Mahomes number one because during the fall, Chris Ballard was the director of player personnel, vice president of player personnel. I think he was that time. Dorsey was still the general manager. And Chris went to see Mahomes 3 times. Loved him. Absolutely loved him. And that was his guy. Then he leaves in January to go to the Colts, but his reports are still there and his feelings are still there because he let it well be known. But now Matt might have had Watson ahead of Mahomes. That part I don't know. But he also knows that Mahomes and Watson were both way above Trubisky in Nagy's rankings. Okay, well, now you come to this year, and Justin Fields is the guy he wanted. Okay, if the Bears had the 3rd pick in the draft, they're taking Justin Fields, not Trey Lance.
Interesting.
Okay, I can't tell you if they would have taken the BYU quarterback. I don't know the answer to that because I don't know what his feelings were. Personally, I like Fields better than him. You look, not only are you looking at some of the throws they make, but they had Fields has the same or better overall athleticism as far as being able to extend plays. I like the release of the BYU quarterback better because it's a little tighter release. We've talked about that 1,000 times. But you look at the quality of competition BYU played versus the quality of competition Justin Fields played first at Georgia in a rotation, a little less than a rotational role, really, as a true freshman, and then at Ohio State and getting into the college football playoff 2 years ago. There's no comparison. He had to play on the big stage where BYU never going to get a shot at that. And so I think because of that, if Bears had picked 2nd or 3rd, Fields might have been the quarterback.
So another good part of the game for Justin Fields was Matt Nagy said that they went through this kind of slump after that first series. They weren't generating any offense.
I thought they were moving the ball at that point where they had where we talked about the penalty.
Yeah, that is true. They were absolutely.
And then it was after that it kind of fell off.
Right. But with the game 17-7, I think it was in the 3rd quarter, or late in the 3rd quarter, maybe it was the 4th quarter, that the team on the sidelines, Matt Nagy told the players, guys, it's time. We've got to do something here to get back into this game. 2 scores is what we need. And Justin Fields led a really excellent drive where he had a number of good plays. And here are just some of the highlights of that drive. He rolls left and hits a dime to Allen Robinson over the middle.
Great throw, good read.
Super. And then here's another one. I believe this is the play to Cole Kmet over the middle, and you just want to see a lot more of this.
Hey, now that can you go back to the beginning of that?
Sure. Here it is right here.
Look at how quick the ball comes out of his hand. As compared to some other things. Boom, he sees it and gets rid of it.
Yeah, he plants that back foot and immediately the ball comes out.
Right. And that's what we got to see more of.
Yeah. And then Nagy complimented this scramble play where he goes out. He goes out to the right on the fake handoff. He doesn't see anything downfield, and he's able to pick up yards. But he said that there isn't that thin line. Sometimes you just got to throw it away, and sometimes you got to run, and that the decision making will get better as time goes on. And of course,
and I think he also said he's going to leave it on Justin to make that decision.
Yeah.
But on this, he looks over and he sees the opening to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, there's flow as everything is going to the offensive right side of the field. So he knows there's something there on the left, and see him look there right before.
Yeah.
And then he said, okay, I got a chance here. And he did. But there's other plays where he's going to get caught doing that, and it's not going to work out as good.
Yep. And we've seen that. He holds onto the ball a bit too long at times. And it's
now that play there, I thought he held onto the ball a split second too long.
I thought the very same thing.
Okay. And can you go back to the beginning of that one?
Yep, right here.
Show you when he should have thrown the ball. Right now.
Yep. Right. Yeah. Definitely. I totally agree. Held on to that.
And that's the difference between a rookie and a vet.
Mm-hmm.
It's the anticipation and seeing things. See, he waited instead of, I hate the term throwing open, but sometimes it's a good term.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he could have thrown that ball to Mooney when Mooney was sitting on the 2-yard line, not in the end zone. And Mooney would have scored.
Yeah. Mule is saying, do you think that the offensive scheme was to blame for some of the issues yesterday?
I wasn't totally in love with Rodgers' play calling yesterday, but at the same time, if the plays work, then you're going to say, "Oh, the play calling was great." They got out of that rhythm they were in early with the run game. He put up a ton of yards early in the game, and don't want to pat myself on the back of the head, but did I say last week Khalil Herbert was going to have a hell of a game?
You did.
The guy
and you like them coming out of the.
I know the guy very well could have been a second or third round pick, and everybody would have been happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good, solid football player. What he does better than I thought, he had a drop though yesterday, is that he wasn't used as a receiver that much at Virginia Tech, and he's got small hands. His hands, I think, measure under 9 inches.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but he catches the ball a little better than I gave him credit for. And he's a plus in the for the most part. He's a plus in the pass game. Now I haven't really studied his pass blocking yet, but if you're not, and that's one thing that Montgomery does is pass block, and that's the difference between being a part-time back and a full-time back in the National Football League. You got to be able to trust that guy in pass protection.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think any other running back, well, I should say, if any other running back got snaps, there weren't very many. So he was out there for a lot of those passes.
All but 4 snaps.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Pierce got in. Nall got in some. Nall was in sometimes with 2 backs.
Right.
But Pierce got in for a few plays. But he was in, for the most part, all but 4 snaps.
So what about the offensive line play yesterday against this Green Bay Packers, who have an outstanding nose tackle in Kenny Clark? Were you satisfied with the offensive line play?
Yeah, there was a few breakdowns, but overall, you run for as many yards as they did. You got to be happy. They gave up some pressures. Don't forget, now you're playing with a backup at right tackle. I heard somebody saying that there was that Wilkerson was having a bunch of false starts. No, he wasn't. He was getting up. He has an extremely quick reaction to the snap. He was never, false starting in those situations. He was right with the snap count.
Yeah, I actually believe that he's played as well as Ifedi and maybe even better. So it's going to be interesting when Ifedi gets healthy.
He's a little more athletic, is what he is.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's as physical, and I haven't seen enough to really say that. Ifedi, you can't throw the guy out. I mean, he might have. They claim he was a weak link on the Seattle offensive line. He started there for 4 years and then went to the playoffs.
That's right.
I mean, what do you want?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They didn't want to pay him, is what it got down to, and they had cap problems.
Right. That's exactly it. I agree with Mule here when he says that there were a number of breakdowns by Cody Whitehair.
Whitehair had a few breakdowns, and I think Mustafa had a few too, and Mustafa is going to have his hands full next week when they play
the Bucs,
Tampa Bay, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that could be a grudge game for Tampa Bay, the way the Bears beat them last year.
Yeah, it's not looking good. I tweeted about 2 hours ago that the Bucs have the best run defense in the NFL, that they're averaging about 55 yards allowed to the rush, which is, of course, the identity of the Bears. So that doesn't spell real good. The Bears might have to rely on a passing game that they have yet to significantly develop yet. So that's going to be an interesting game from that standpoint, but I don't expect
Todd Bowles is a friend of mine, is one of the best. And by the way, I got this firsthand information.
Okay.
Todd Bowles people are pushing hard for that Raiders job.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well,
you heard it here first.
Right. Well, he was the head coach with the New York Jets.
Right.
Had some, the one-loss record wasn't significant, but guys.
He also had the worst GM in football.
Yes, exactly. He was dealing with a poor roster. So guys like him, who have shown so much promise as a coordinator after having limited success, if any, as a head coach, I think guys like that deserve a second shot, and the Raiders could be a great spot for him.
Yeah, it could. Now, will they go for the trend seems to be going after these offensive geniuses, but look at some of the success the defensive guys like, Staley's had in with the Chargers, this year so far. So that could bode well for Todd. It's not going to hurt that he's a minority, but I've known Todd a number of years. And he was in Philly in 2012 when I was there too. He was on that same staff. Great guy, very, very smart, really knows how to communicate with his players.
Yeah, he's an intriguing candidate for any job out there, but the Raiders would seem to be a good fit. Now back to this game Sunday with the Bears and Packers. The defense played well, but there was a moment.
Not well enough.
Yes, exactly. So,
I was disappointed in the run defense more than anything. When you're playing Aaron Rodgers, you're going to give up some big plays. It's going to happen because you're playing Aaron Rodgers. And his accuracy is just deadly. And he's got one of the best receivers in the game. And by the way, Greg Olsen did a great job calling that game too.
Yeah, I thought so too. He's got a good future ahead of him. But
now, don't say that future ahead of him. Of course the future is ahead of him.
Thank you. That is what is called an oxymoron.
His best days are ahead of him.
The explosive plays is what the Bears allowed to the Packers rushing. Jones had a 28-yarder. Dillon had that 36-yarder. I mean, he had 11 rushes, 59 yards. You eliminate that 36-yarder, he would have had 10 for 20-something. And
no question. There was some breakdown in the run game. I don't recall if that was after Khalil got hurt.
Okay.
One of them was before. He might not have even been in them. But he got hurt on that sack, and it was obvious. He grabbed that groin right away. He gets the sack. He has to make a change of direction. to sack Rodgers, and then right after Rodgers goes down, he grabs his groin.
Yeah, that was so disheartening to see, and so
And he didn't play another down after that.
Did not, right. And Khalil Mack, according to reporters, and I haven't gone back to look at the tape, but reporters kind of insinuated that his second half was not nearly as strong as his first half. So what's the injury status with Khalil Mack? And so I'm starting to wonder, should he get a rest week and maybe just hold him out a week? It's happened before, and it sometimes, I think in his first season, he was held out for 2 games, and he came back and played really well the rest of the season. Should the Bears be thinking about something like that?
It really depends on the severity of the injury and what the injury is. They're very vague with saying what it is. Green Bay could have made some adjustments. I got to go back and look at the coach's tape on that to see if they made any adjustments to block on him. But both Quinn and him got sacks going again in this game. Khalil's got 6 sacks. Quinn's got 5.5 in 6 games. Those guys are off to a great start. They're doing exactly what we hoped they would do a year ago. And they're doing it this year. Inside they're getting plays. Now, 2 weeks in a row, 97 has made a bonehead play where, and the one yesterday was, in fairness to him, it cost the Bears 15, but it shouldn't have, because Aaron Rodgers grabbed his face mask and then he pushed Aaron Rodgers.
Well, what did you say about Aaron Rodgers before we went live, Greg?
They protect that son of a bitch more than him and Brady, they protect.
Yeah. And it's so frustrating. We'll talk about his comments a little bit later, but you're absolutely right. Mario Edwards has shown a lack of discipline that's concerning, because his play is really good. He comes in and makes big play after big play, but you can't be giving them yards with these silly penalties. You got to restrain yourself. And this guy has a history of not being able to contain himself. So that's concerning.
They got him. I'll tell you, they got him with taunting. Now, how can he be taunting when he's bitching about having his face mask being held? Because Rodgers, if you see the replay, Rodgers went up and had him just like this. He grabbed it.
That's a great point. That is a great point. A lot of chatter in the chat room regarding the defensive backs and their tackling. We saw Gibson miss another tackle. And then I want to bring up this one play here and have you take a look at it. This is the Packers touchdown in the second quarter, I want to say. And Eddie Jackson, you'll see him here lined up. Let me stop it here. You'll see the circle that I have of Eddie Jackson there.
Right.
He is slow to get to the gap. I'll just
this is a shovel pass to Lazard, right?
Yes, it is. So then Eddie sees it and just doesn't have the power to push a fellow wide receiver, a fellow specialty player, for lack of a better way of putting it, back into the backfield. It just, to me, it's
Lazard, in fairness, not sticking up for Eddie here. Lazard's got about 30 pounds on Jackson.
Okay, didn't know that.
Okay. But Lazard's about 220, 225. Jackson's about 190.
Okay.
Lazard's a big guy. He's about 6'4", 6'5". Watching that play at first, I didn't even realize it was Eddie. I thought that was a linebacker, and I thought a linebacker should stuff him at like the 2.
Yeah, right.
On that play. But it was a DB, and is what it is.
So can we forgive Eddie for this, or am I wrong?
I mean, no. He tried to tackle the play. If you watch in football, the low man wins. Who's lower here?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, Lazard is lower. The highest part of his body is about right here on Eddie Jackson. You're going to win that battle 100% of the time. It's leverage.
you've been around this game for decades. What do you do as a coaching staff to help these guys tackle better? I mean, these guys are critical. They're the last line of defense between the offense and the goal line.
You want the real answer?
Yes, please.
Throw out the fucking CBA and get it back the way it was. Have real training camp where you have hitting in training camp, because you don't work on that stuff. And so it happens during the course of the season, and tackling as a whole in the National Football League sucks.
Yep, it does.
It's not just the Bears games.
Yes.
It's almost every game. And it's because you're not doing it in preseason practice, where you used to do tackling drills a couple times a week. You never do it. No, you're tackling dummies.
Right. Well, one of the things that though does concern me, and I put this up on Twitter with a replay of one of his so-called tackles, is that he is trying to go for the ball so much that the ball carrier is carrying Eddie Jackson for 7 yards.
I agree with it. You're trying to create a turnover. And if you got two people on the play, you can do that, because one guy can bring the guy down and then the other guy's trying to make the strip. But if it's one-on-one, you gotta get the guy down.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just seems, if you're the first guy to the ball carrier, the first thing you got to be thinking is tackle. Now, you can do the peanut punch, but you immediately have to go back to thinking tackling.
Right. But when you do the peanut punch, for the sake of argument here, you're losing some leverage there.
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. So again, if you watch Peanut, a lot of times he's the second guy in, not all the time, or sometimes he's the first guy and there's somebody else coming in right away. But first job of the defender is not to create a turnover, but to get the guy down, and then try to create the turnover.
Yeah. So a lot of people have been calling for Eddie Jackson to get benched. A lot of people, and I mean that by
it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
And please tell us why.
Well, he calls everything on the back end, and he is very, very good in coverage. He's had, I think, one big breakdown during the course of the season, and they all had some breakdowns early. Overall, I'm not that disappointed in the secondary's play, except the tackling's got to get better. But people thought that the corner play was going to be a weakness. Corner play hasn't been a weakness this year.
Been really good.
No, the corner play has been good.
Yeah.
And now they never said anything as to why he had a different nickel in there yesterday.
Yeah, that was interesting. Christian over Shelley, who had a pretty decent game the last week.
Well, it was the kid from Central Michigan. I don't have the roster in front of me.
Okay.
Was playing the nickelback. Not Marquis Christian. No, that was not Marquis Christian.
Kid from Central. Oh, yeah. I'll find it. Go ahead.
I'll get it. Wait a minute. Let me look here.
Why do you think that happened?
It might have been the size of the Green Bay receivers, for all I know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. You've been sounding the alarm on Duke Shelley's size for some time now, so I can definitely see that. Xavier Crawford.
Yeah. He had 3 tackles, 2 solos, 1 assist. Yeah. But Xavier is a bigger guy he's taller, he's longer than Duke Shelley, and it may have been that for matchup reasons, or just in practice, he has moved himself ahead of Duke Shelley.
Yeah, interesting.
Now, Shelley is a competitive kid. He's just small.
Yeah.
He's 5'8.5", and that's never going to change.
Well, and the Bears seem to be playing a lot of dime defensive schemes now. So there's kind of should be playing time available for a lot of these guys. It seems to me. So that's one of the things that Sean Desai is doing much more than Chuck Pagano. But you've been very, very complimentary of Desai's defensive coordinator work. Why don't you tell our followers why?
Well, I just like. It's going back to when Vic was here. A lot of things are very, very similar. And he was a big disciple of Vic's. That's where he basically learned the game. not a whole lot different than Staley did with the Rams last year. Very, very similar. And, and where'd Staley learn? Same place, right here under Vic. They're all on the same staff. And by the way, Staley's doing a hell of a job. I mean, they got their ass kicked yesterday, but he's doing a hell of a job in LA with the Chargers.
He's super coach, man.
Well, part of it, you got a quarterback.
That helps a lot.
Okay, so and hopefully the Bears got their quarterback now. So you got to go through. You got to be like me and walk you off the edge. And these fans again. This morning's presser, I'm looking at these comments that come up, and I don't know if you saw it, but I finally put something in. I go, these comments are just asinine.
I try to stay away from them. Yeah. Because I'm the same way. I mean, there's a lot of people who are passionate about the Chicago Bears, but they don't really understand a lot of things that go into being a head coach, running an organization, and so forth. And so they speak from emotion, which is fine. Yeah, you're allowed to say whatever you want in this country, and that's a great thing. But some of those comments are just ridiculously stupid.
Well, as long as your liberals are in trouble, we keep getting to say less, but that's all right.
I'm not censoring you, Greg. This is Greg Gabriel talks football and whatever the hell he wants. All right. So we've talked about the defense. Anything else regarding the defense that you might be concerned? Well, it's the injuries. We've touched on that. But any concerns or any platitudes, any attaboys that you want to give out? I'll
tell you, I like, Danny Trevathan came back, and they're starting to use Danny more. But if you notice, they're using Danny more in run situations. And when you get in obvious pass situations, Danny's not in there. Ogletree is in there because he's a lot better in coverage. And you saw why on that one breakup deep down the middle on that seam pattern.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hell of a play on his part.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it really was. Some people were blaming him for not coming up with the interception. I'm like, dude, what do you want? You mentioned Danny Trevathan. I got to just ask you this question. I know it's a silly question, but I'd love to get your thoughts on it. A lot of people, actually, John Buffone and I had a little bit of a debate about this. He said Danny Trevathan should have never been re-signed. Nick Kwiatkowski, who the Bears allowed to get to the Raiders, he should have been the linebacker signed as the number one backer alongside Roquan Smith. Your thoughts on that?
I think that's a valid argument.
Mm-hmm.
But excuse me, I think part of the equation, and we never know the answer to this because you're not inside the building, is what the player means in the locker room. Yep. And Danny Trevathan is very highly respected among the players in the locker room. Okay. And when they signed that contract, see, now, your discussion with Buffone is after the fact, which is fair. But when you sign that contract, Danny's coming off a pretty strong year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now he started off poorly last year. I don't know. It was almost like he was out of shape. And maybe you can give him a pass because of the COVID situation, and he didn't have the off-season program that you normally have, and bad allergy again. Yeah. And so, I think the back half of last year he played a lot better. And until he got hurt in preseason, I thought he was playing pretty good this year. In fact, if he doesn't get hurt, it's probably a blessing that he got hurt, because if he doesn't get hurt, they don't sign Ogletree. Yeah. And Ogletree's been a blessing.
Yeah, indeed. A huge blessing. And Jason Peters, and Ryan Pace says, we got very fortunate when we found them out in the street, and you sure did, because
he was fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
He literally was. He was fishing when Juan called him.
Exactly. Rock Davis has a question for me, but I'm gonna answer very quickly and then have you answer it. He says, basically, do you think Matt Nagy is a good head coach? I want to say that I think Matt Nagy is at now a transformative period in his career. If he continues to embrace the fact that he is the coach of all three phases, and he's focused on overseeing those things and firing up players and leading the staff, the coaching staff with good game planning, then yes, moving forward, he could be a good coach. But he has in the past shown some narrow-minded perspectives on things. Greg, your thoughts?
I don't disagree with you. If his game plans were working, we wouldn't have this discussion. But his game plans weren't working.
That's right.
And so, it brings about discussion like this. So, it takes a lot. I mean, with coaches, there's a lot of ego involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it says a lot for Matt that within the building and within his peers in the building, the other offensive coaches, that he listened. And go back 2 weeks ago, he said we had a lot of discussion among ourselves.
Right.
Now, he could have said, screw you guys, I'm the head coach, and this is the way we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he could have lost the coaching staff and could have lost the locker room. Now, one thing I'm going to say, when you can tell when a coach loses a team doesn't show up. Go back and look at John Fox and the last part of his tenure here.
Yes.
Go back and look at the whole last 2/3 of the season when Trustman's final year here. Those guys weren't playing for him.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want you out the door, that's how they show it. We ain't playing for this guy.
Yeah.
And, people will say, well, yeah, but you're playing for a job and that game's on tape. Well, you know what? You're watching on tape, but you're also watching the good stuff from before. And you see a drop off and you go, well, how did that happen so quick? And then, you got to put one and one together to get the two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tureen has a good stat. I saw this elsewhere too, Tureen. Bears have scored 20 points or less 27 times under Matt Nagy. I think they're under 500 in that particular stat. And that goes a lot to Nagy's stubbornness, like you just mentioned.
Well, they scored less than 20 points yesterday. Nagy wasn't calling plays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now part of that, and I think when you go into last year and the year before, last year, the second half of the season, he didn't call plays. Laser did.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'd have to go back and find out exactly when it was, but it was somewhere around mid-season. Yeah. It was during the losing streak.
Right.
And, and I think part of it might have been on Mitch too, but now you've got a built-in excuse. You got a rookie quarterback that's learning on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't expect this team to be putting up 28 to 35 points. Everything's got to be clicking for that to happen.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen a year from now, but that the old baseball cliche of wait till next year. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, this year I said it a little earlier. Y'all wanted it. Now you got it, and now you got to go through with what goes with it.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And the other thing regarding Matt Nagy is there are. I like the fact that some franchises are going to give the benefit of the doubt to a head coach, because if not, you're going to have consistent turnover. And so maybe the issue is the person that's hiring the coach has to go. But in this case, I don't think it's that. I mean, I think it's the Bears are kind of waiting for him to mature as a coach and hopefully get it going. And they've expected that to happen last season. They expect it to happen this season. And it's just been slow in happening. I remember my brother saying, I hate Lovie Smith. They should fire Lovie Smith. And I told him, be careful, because you don't know who is going to replace Lovie Smith. And history proved that
be careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
Lovie got fired after a 10-6 season. That was absolutely absurd.
Unbelievable.
And you know why? Because Phil Emery was told he could pick his own coach in another year.
Yeah.
So regardless of what happened.
Yeah. Which is stupid to do.
Yes.
You bring in a new GM, you tell him the keys are yours. Just keep the place clean and win us some football games.
I'll give you a perfect example because Jerry Angelo was told the same thing, but Jerry wasn't hired till June.
Okay.
Jerry was hired like June 12th.
Yeah, that's a different story.
Okay, and I was hired like June 13th. So, I mean, it was like the day after Jerry was. Mm-hmm. And Jerry was said, Dick's the coach this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we went into that year thinking that could be making a change. But how we won and then it was the NFC Central.
Mm-hmm.
I got the game ball for it up over here somewhere. And now it's the NFC North. But what are you going to do? Fire him after winning the NFC Central? No, you can't.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Prior to the show going live, you said almost exactly the same thing as Matthew Focchisi says here. Anyone bring up why I still own you wasn't taunting? Of course, he said, not we. Go ahead, Greg. Tell us why that's not taunting.
Probably because it was directed at fans instead of a player.
Mm-hmm.
But if anything was taunting, that was taunting.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I mean.
Except that, they left out the one part. He said, I fucking own you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the cameras caught it. I think they bleeped
And then how about this? Oh, I blacked out. I don't remember saying it.
Yes, and he's laughing.
Okay.
And he's laughing as he says that. So he's clearly sticking it to Chicago fans. And I don't care if a female fan or a male fan or an animal is flipping him the bird. That kind of behavior is not representative of what the NFL wants. I mean, it's even worse that he's saying that to a female fan. He should be fined for that. He should be fined.
He's not going to. It's Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. But what it's going to do, and, mark it down, it's going to, for the return game later in the season, rile up some players on the defense. So when he does get sacked, you might hear I own you, bitch, in his face, when they're sacking him. And when he's playing somewhere else, because one thing, he isn't playing in Green Bay next year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the swan song with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. And then there's going to be a new sheriff in town. Detroit, how about this? Just change the subject a little bit.
Sure.
Detroit coach is already saying, well, we need a little bit more out of Goff. Yeah. Well, why do you think the Rams got rid of him?
Exactly.
He's soft.
Yeah.
He's not a tough player.
Yep. Under adversity, he turns into, I don't know, spaghetti or whatever is soft, cotton or what have you.
Smack that guy in the face a couple times in his history.
Yep. Tony Brown wants me to ask you, do you think that Matt Nagi comes up with a script of, say, 20 plays and that Laser then calls those plays? The old Bill Walsh style of thinking, you script the first 15 plays.
There's a script, but I don't think those are Nagy's script. Those are the staff script.
Mm-hmm. They all work together to come up with that script.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there can be deviation on that script depending on down and distance.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I've always wondered that, Greg, because I'm a big fan of the Bill Walsh scripted plays and his offensive philosophy and so forth. And I always wonder, well, what happens if on the script you're calling for a run play and it's 3rd down and 10? So there are variations of that.
Right. But now also, do you know why they have that script?
No.
It's really to see you want to throw certain things at the defense to find out their reaction early in the game.
Mm-hmm. And just about every NFL team does it that way. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean, you want to throw a situation out and see exactly how they're defending it, so that you can either throw that play out or keep coming back to it, or use a variation of that play later on. Because if stuff works early, they got to make adjustments. if it works, and vice versa. So that there's craziness to all that, why it's being done.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to talk about just kind of do a quick segment here on your thoughts on some of the NFL teams, like for instance the Tampa Bay Bucks, who are 5-1. They are 3-0 at home. This team has everything needed. I'm guessing. I'm asking to win another Super Bowl.
Right now, the way they're playing, yes, but they just like last year, they have some down games. I don't think they're going to have a down game last year, and only because they had that down game last year against the Bears. And I think, Brady's a competitor where that's going to be, he took a lot of shit for that game last year. And so, and he's got the memory that's okay, payback time.
Exactly.
So
he's going to remember what down is.
That's right. That's right. Now, they got a little bit of an older team though too, and we're only a third of the way through the season.
Yeah,
and
you're seeing it with Gronkowski. He's starting to fall apart.
Yeah, and Brady's one hit away. I mean, anybody's one hit away, but
right.
What you see now might not be what you're seeing in December.
Yep.
Depending on the health of that team. I mean, it worked. Very few teams can withstand injuries to top players, but
yeah,
I mean, I think Buffalo started off flat in that first game against Pittsburgh. They've been lights out ever since. How about this? They're playing tonight in Tennessee. If Twitter is correct, half that stadium is Bills fans.
Wow.
Because they have just overpowered, at least fans. I don't know whether they got tickets for the games, but Buffalo fans have overpowered the nightclub action in Tennessee since Friday night.
Yep. Well, and that was another team that I was going to ask about, Buffalo Bills. I know you've been high on them since last season. Let me take a look at their win-loss record here very quickly.
5-1 or 4-1 rather.
4-1, 108 net points. They've scored 172 and only given up 64. You still think they're on track to have an outstanding season into the playoffs and maybe all the way to the Super Bowl?
Right now, I think they're the best team in the AFC. But like Tampa, they got to stay healthy. If Josh Allen gets hurt, Mitch Trubisky becomes the quarterback for them.
Right.
And I'll tell you, that would be interesting just to see, because I think Brian Daboll should be like the next head coach somewhere. I think he's great. If they made a change here, that's the guy I'd want because of what he's done. Excuse me.
With the quarterback?
What he's done with Josh Allen, yeah. He's a remarkable offensive mind.
Yeah. Do you know anything about his abilities? He's never been a head coach anywhere, correct?
No, he's been a coordinator in college, and he's worked for some good people. He's worked at New England under Saban, but after he left there, he went to Alabama. Now he's up here. The guys, he's had some diversity in his.
Yeah. So does it give you pause at all to hire somebody, who has that resume where they have never led an entire football team?
A lot of head coaches have never led a football team. That they get their something about the National Football League. In hockey and in basketball, you see guys get second, third, fourth, and fifth chances. You seldom see that in football.
Yeah, not anymore.
You're trying to go with the hot guy, but Brian's resume, and I know the Buffalo fans would hate it. First of all, he's a Buffalo guy. He went to. Here's an interesting little stat. He went to St. Francis High School, along with Bill Polian's kid, who was a executive in the National Football League, along with Tom Telesco, who's the GM with the Chargers, and about three other people that are all in the league. And actually, most of them are in the league because of one person, Bill Polian, because they were friends with Polian's kids, and Polian got them all in the league.
Interesting. All right. You say the Bills are the best team in the AFC. A close second then has to be the Ravens, right?
Ravens are tough.
Yep.
And two quarterbacks who I never thought would be as good in the NFL as they were like good college quarterbacks are Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Jackson was a awful passer, as was Josh Allen in college, and both have become lights out passers in the NFL, which throws out that myth that non-accurate quarterbacks in college all of a sudden become accurate in the NFL, because that's 2 out of 2 right there that have done it, and in the same draft.
Yeah. I agree with you. I used to think the same thing. I started to believe that after the Bears drafted Cade McNown. I said, this guy was not that accurate in college. Why would the Bears draft him? And he was terrible at Chicago with his accuracy. So
asshole too, but
yeah, I've heard that about Cade McNown.
I never worked with him. I've just been told.
Okay. Another team I'd love to get your thoughts on. You brought them up a little earlier. The Chargers, a tough loss for them yesterday. It seemed like everything went wrong, but nonetheless, that's a 4-2 team. Does it worry you that their net points is it's -2 now after that big loss to the Ravens? But does anything about this Chargers team worry you, or you just think that this is a
they
team
don't have enough guys yet.
Yeah,
they're climbing the mountain.
Yeah.
But they got the key ingredient. They got the quarterback. And they got the quarterback on a rookie contract for a few more years. So now they should, they can go out and get some other players, get the supporting cast, and they're gonna, they're gonna give Kansas City's, except for Mahomes, Kansas City's starting to get old, and they're showing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they won yesterday, but they very easily could have lost.
They had a terrible first half. Yeah.
Yeah. And, so we might have already seen the best, even though they got Mahomes, we might have seen the best of KC. The only thing is you get them in a game where like a 1-game playoff game. Well, they can be lights out too because of Andy Reid, but their overall personnel just hasn't been what it's been like in the past and Andy's other years at Kansas City. Total revamping of the offensive line, and the defense is, just starting to get a little bit older.
Last team I want you to comment on, please, is the Arizona Cardinals, who are 6-0. And just to me, my untrained eyes look like a dynamite football team.
I haven't watched them for more than 5 minutes. I don't like that team, so I don't want to watch them.
Why don't you like them? Is the follow-up question.
It's my own prejudice. Cliff Kingsbury was a horrible college coach. He couldn't win at Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes.
Well, and they won without him yesterday. He wasn't there.
I know. That kind of tells you something right there. They didn't have a bunch of coaches yesterday.
That's right.
And they didn't have a GM.
Wow, interesting. It's a player's game.
They all had COVID. But then I didn't know the Bears receivers coach was out because of COVID.
Yeah, Mike Fury. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until listening to the press conference this morning.
Yeah, I think it was announced on Friday. You lose a lot of news on Friday. People are getting ready for the weekend.
Right.
All right. I want to get back to the Bears regarding a topic that I think you can help me understand better. Robert Quinn's contract was renegotiated so now that to free up about $8 million in cap.
I don't know if it was that much. It gave him about $3.5 million more.
Okay, maybe it was $3.5 million because they were down to a cap space of $800,000. So now about $3 or $4 million, whatever it is now being deferred into the future. And the Bears have like $30-some million in contracts that have been deferred. How dangerous is this for the Chicago Bears when they're filling out rosters in 2022 and beyond? Well,
you're only going to do that with players that you're not planning on being here next year, or that you are planning on being here
All right.
next
So,
year.
so
Okay.
Quinn will be around, right?
Quinn will be around. Khalil Mack will be around. A-Rob, I do not, if I was a betting man, I'd say A-Rob is not going to be here. I'm going to say Akeem Hicks isn't going to be here. He's going to be 34 years old next year or something. And the injuries are starting to set in. If you look at the amount of games missed and plays missed because of injuries, I just think, there becomes a time, and Bill Belichick was the pro at it. He would always get rid of a guy 1 year early, and everybody in the media say, "Why is he getting rid of that guy?" He always had the last laugh because it was the right thing to do. He starts seeing you go downhill before everybody else knows you're going downhill. And I'm not saying Akeem is going downhill, but I think he plays in spurts. And when he plays, and the good spurts are still vintage Akeem Hicks, but because of age and because of injuries, he can't sustain it. And then when you throw in the salary, now if you can get him at a bargain basement price, he said, "I want to be here." Okay, well, yeah, of course, but his contract's up, so that's why, and Drew Rosenhaus is going to be looking for him to try to hit a home run again. I don't even see him hitting a home run, to tell you the truth. But if you can get him at a reasonable price, then he'll be here. But it's got to be less than what you're paying him now. One of either Foles or Andy Dalton will not be here next year. I don't know which. Both contracts are pretty much up. Dalton's for sure. I'm not exactly sure how Foles' contract works, but Dalton's only got a 1 year contract. He's going to want to be able to. He is the ideal backup, but he's going to want to be able to compete for a starting job. Now, if that's not offered to him, then he may come back. It depends what his relationships, and then I'm going to assume that Matt Nagy is going to be the coach next year. But if Matt Nagy's not the coach, that's going to change things too. Because if he's not the coach, then you're probably going to have a different general manager too.
Well, and the final question is, given the cap situation with this team, making great draft picks and finding quality undrafted free agents is imperative. What is going on in scouting rooms like at Hallis Hall? They don't have a first round draft pick, but what are they doing to ensure that they can replenish the pipeline with players that they're going to lose or in positions that definitely need an upgrade?
Well, the Rams haven't had a first round pick since the turn of the century, I don't think. I mean, Bears haven't had one in a few years. Well, this year they did, but they gave away again next year's. But it's last year they had 2 second round picks, and I thought they hit really well with the 2 second round picks between Cole Kmet, and you haven't begun to see, you're starting to see what Cole Kmet can be. Cole Kmet is going to be a force in this league. Part of it's going to be that you got to have Justin Fields have some experience now. But he's going to be a force in this league. Jalen Johnson's going to be a force in this league. So those were good picks. But you're not doing anything now other than grading players.
Okay.
And it's still too early to even get into your cross checks. So you got your area scouts are grading players. Your over the top people are grading the players. It's not until after the season. We would bring in, just to use the formula we used, we would bring in the scouts in December for a home game. So it would either be the first or second week of December, whenever there was a home game.
Okay.
They'd come in on a Saturday night. We'd all go out, go to the game on Sunday, meet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They'd go home, and we'd start. And it's not putting the board together. It's really the first cut, what I call the first cut down. Okay. Because you're starting off at what you got well over 1,000 names. Okay. Well, you're not going to work going forward that you get into the first of the year. You're not working with 1,000 names. half of those names you don't want.
Yeah, it's impossible to handle that workload too.
Right.
I mean,
right. So you start eliminating people,
mhm.
and you're touching on every one of the. In 4 days, you can touch on every one of those 1,000 people, and we would, unless there was a disagreement with Jerry or myself, and Jerry or myself and the area scout,
Mhm.
we would pretty much rely on the area scout to, we use two terms: keep the guy alive, put him to sleep. And he said, put him to sleep. We put him to sleep. Now, it's not like you're giving him an OD of barbiturates or something. When you put him to sleep, he can rise from the dead if he does something in the postseason or
Sure.
an All-Star game. But
Yeah.
tentatively speaking, he's done.
Mhm.
We slap a final grade on him, and a lot of times it's guys that just don't fit what you're doing.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, or
Right.
bad injury problems in the past. You don't
Mhm.
want to deal with that, or bad character problems.
Okay. One last question, I promise. So at a certain point in the season or whenever, does the team project needs further down the road and say, we're probably not going to resign X player, so in 2023 we're going to have a need at X position? And so they kind of keep that in mind when evaluating players?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that had to be sort of the case.
But
I mean,
that could be the case with veteran free agency too.
okay. Yeah.
Okay, because now when you're looking at free agency, you're looking at the strengths and weaknesses of both pools. So the draft, okay, so now the Bears got the draft. They know they don't have a number one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but they do have some extra picks down the road, and they do have a number two. So they got to look at the depth of the draft. Okay, we can throw out. Chances are where they're going to be picking in the second round, they might get a guy they have rated as a first round pick. And who knows what's going to happen with Tevin Jenkins going forward. Going back to last week, Nagy said one thing that was nobody really caught on to. I did right away. Well, these guys are all day to day right now. Did you catch that at all?
Yep.
He was talking about Borum and okay. Nobody knows exactly. They never said exactly what kind of surgery Tevin Jenkins had on his back.
Right.
So is he done for the year, or is he done till the bye week and then? He's only on IR for 3 weeks. So 3 weeks, anytime after 3 weeks, you can bring him back, and you can practice him for 3 weeks before you have to bring him up. And then you got to make a decision. You either got to bring him up to the active roster or put him back down on IR. And if you put him back down on IR, he's done practicing, for the year. So that, those two guys could both, Borum will be back. We'll have to see about Jenkins. But Jenkins, if for some reason he doesn't come back this year, that's like having another high pick next year.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
okay.
and hopefully it won't be a miss at that position.
No, I love this tape.
Yeah, you do.
I'm not worried about that. Shit happens.
Yeah.
Okay. He had. It's not the first guy it's going to happen to, and it's sure as hell not going to be the last guy. But to get back what I was saying, you're looking at both different pools, and you're looking at the strengths and weaknesses of each pool. Well, we got to take care of these needs. Where can we do them? And when you're looking at the free agent pool, say, okay, I got to get a corner. Well, okay, if you want a number one or number two corner right away, you've got to spend some money.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
You want a number one left tackle, you're going to spend some, even a right tackle now, you're going to spend some money. Okay, so the hope is that you can get those guys in the draft and develop them, because then you're not having to spend that money for at least 4 years
Mm-hmm.
on him. And if the Bears are right on Borum and Jenkins, they got those guys for 4 years. I'm not sure. I know the collective bargaining agreement fairly well, but there's always little things that I'm missing. If Jenkins doesn't play this year, next year might, for all intents and purposes, be his first year again. He'll be listed as a first-year player, and then I don't know if it's a repeat. But because he never participated in even one day of training camp.
That is fascinating. That would really help the Bears cap situation immensely if they can get that.
But I could be totally wrong on that one, because that's in that dark area,
right?
But it could extend his contract out actually another year.
Mm-hmm.
So they could, and that could be a reason. If you feel pretty good about Jason Peters getting you out of the year,
mm-hmm.
then you could say, let's just put him on
Exactly.
pause. And then, we still got him 4 more years before we got to pay him.
Mm-hmm. That is a great point. And let's hope Mr. Peters can finish out the season and play at the level that he's been playing at the very least. I am frankly shocked at how well he has played over the last few weeks. I expected.
But the guy's been to the Pro Bowl 9 times.
I know. I mean, he's a stud. He's a pancake stud too. I mean, I love
the way. And everybody sings the Rams tackles praises. He's 2 months older than our guy.
Whitworth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say Whitmore. Whitworth is actually 2 months older than Jason.
There you go. And he's somebody that was thinking about retiring too, but decided to.
Yeah, about 5 years ago. You never retire when that money's there, and
That's right.
You take a couple months off after the season, and it's not hard getting out of bed anymore. And now you get to my age, it's hard getting out. I've had like 10 surgeries over that. Every day's a bitch getting out.
Yeah, well, tell us how many weights, what are you deadlifting and all that stuff now?
No, tell us. I'm just under 300 on the bench right now, and I'll say, how many 70-year-olds can do that?
Not this 70-year-old, not even this 63-year-old.
What are you, 63?
I am 63 and feel like I'm 83.
Well, you can get Social Security.
Yeah, I'm going to need it. Greg, it's always a blast talking football with you. I can't wait till next Monday when we're talking about a win in Tampa Bay. No, I'm kidding. We're talking about.
I'll tell you, I might call in sick if it's bad. I don't know.
Well, and that's what I'm worried of, that it could be another embarrassing defeat. If they're going to lose, hopefully they walk away with more progression from the quarterback position and other areas. At this point, I'll take a moral victory, but I don't want to have my heart stabbed over and over again by.
It's a road game too. If there was, I think that was one of the things it was a winnable game yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get blown out, but they started to say this. They didn't finish.
Mm-hmm.
None of these players have quit on the coaches. They play hard.
Yep. And
they play good at home.
Yep.
So it's. I know fans don't want to be patient. They want Justin Fields to be an MVP right now, and it's just not going to happen.
I think don't you have 2 words for fans who are saying trade Justin Fields, and don't those 2 words start with F and U and Y?
I haven't seen that. Are there people that are saying that now?
Oh my gosh! Yesterday was unbelievable, the amount of tweets, and even some people in the chat room were like, "Trade Justin Fields." Somebody even said, "Trade Justin Fields for Mitch Trubisky." It's like, come on, you got to be kidding me.
They want Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers didn't play for 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Patrick Mahomes played 1 game.
Be patient with Justin Fields, and it will pay off. The question is whether how much more patient can we be with head coach Matt Nagi? That remains to be seen. All right, Greg, we will be here next week, and I'll just let people know very quickly that Southbird's Hitmen, our show dedicated to the White Sox, is not going to have its season finale tonight. They're going to do it next Monday because of illness to one of the guys. And we've got plenty of Chicago Bears coverage for the rest of the week, 15 hours of it. All you got to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll get automatic updates as to what's happening and when it's happening. And hopefully you can join us live. But if you can't, just join us then on demand, YouTube or YouTube channel, podcasting, audio podcasting like iTunes, Spotify, etc., or our YouTube channel. So for Greg Gabriel, I'm Aldo Gandia. We'll see you next week.
Stay on for a second. I got to talk to you when you close it off.
You got it. Bye-bye, everybody.